Hello everyone and welcome back to Aluboard. My name is Navneet and I'm your computer instructor. And till now, we have discussed about the entire syllabus of computer awareness portion of JKSSP exam, and we have seen that this 20 marks has been distributed into this 9 chapters. In this particular video, we are going to talk about the very first chapter, and that is basic application of computer and its components. For the sake of simplicity, I'm going to divide this chapter into two separate videos, where in this video, the very first video, will talk about the component of computer and the different aspect of computer. Okay, and in the second video we'll talk about the basic application of computers. So let us proceed to see what we have here in this chapter. So the name of this chapter is basic application of computer and its components, and as a lesson plan, as I told you, we have divided this entire chapter into two separate videos. The very first video, that is this video, will consist of computer and its components, and here we'll talk about what is computer as a system. We'll talk about different components of a computer system. We'll talk about the IPOS thing. We'll also talk about different tidbits and simple one-liners that are very important related to this chapter. And at the end of the lesson, we'll solve some MCQs in order to get our understanding of the chapter. Okay, so without wasting any time, let us start with the very first question, and that is, what is a computer? So if we go by the definition, a computer is an electronic machine that is designed to solve real world problems. Okay, and how does the computer does that? It does that by simply taking some input from user, processing it, and finally providing something as an output. Okay, if you talk about the word computer, the computer word comes from its root, and that is compute. And what does compute means? Compute means is to calculate. So computer was originally developed to perform computations on different numbers, especially the complex calculation part for different scientific calculations. But now it is being used in multiple dimensions. Okay, and in order to have an understanding of these different dimensions, I'll quickly give an example of two important areas where computers are being used nowadays. The first area is where computer is being used is, say, computation. Okay, all the complex computation is being done by the computer. And second important area where the modern computer is being used is the communication part. Okay, so these are two important areas where the modern computer has been deployed. When you talk about the communication part, you simply have a lot of examples. If I simply give about some examples, I'd simply say, see the networking aspects and see the internet aspects of the computer, right? So the next question to answer here is, who is the father of computer? Mr. Charles Babbage has been considered as the father of computer because he made two important inventions, and these two important inventions are, first is called as difference engine. Okay, the first important machine is called as difference engine, and second machine is called as analytical engine. Okay, this difference engine was actually invented in 1822 around, and this analytical engine was actually invented in 1838 around. Okay, why this is important? Because this analytical engine has actually laid the foundation stone for the development of modern computer. This particular machine was developed in 1838 around, but the modern computer, the development of modern computers actually started from 1940s around, and the very first computer that was ever made in 1940s around was based on the concept of this analytical engine. Okay, and that is why we call Charles Babbage as the father of modern computer. Okay, let us talk about the system aspect of a computer. Okay, so in order to understand a computer system, first of all, let us understand what actually a system is. Okay, so a system is generally a collection of multiple units put together to perform some activities in order to achieve a common goal. Okay, and in computer system, we are having different components that perform their part in order to solve a larger computation problem. What those parts are, what those components are. So if we go by the basic structure of a computer system, we simply call that we are having three different components, and these components are, first of all, the input component, the second is the process component, and third is the output component. Okay, so these three different components are put together in order to achieve the computation. Okay, this central part here that consists of process and memory, this central part is called as the CPU. Okay, however, the CPU term is some old school term, because nowadays we do not store everything at a central place. We do not install a computer in a large area. Now we have computers that are much smaller than its previous generations. Okay, and that is why we started to use the microprocessor type of thing. Okay, and you can also call that, like, because of the microprocessor, the compactness of the computer has came. Okay, so this input, the process, and the output, these are three important components of the computer system, where this input component is of very importance because it acts as an interface between man and the machine. Okay, and that is why we call this input as the man machine interface. Okay, and this is the point from where the system gets to interact with its surroundings. Okay, in order to process anything, the system has to get something from the outside of the environment in order to process that, and this input thing is the important place from where it gets all the data to process. Okay, and finally the output device are the designated device that are actually used to show the processed output. Okay, moving forward, initially computer used to perform heavy computation on numeric data only. Okay, but as the technology developed, it started to be used in data and information processing. Okay, so initially everything was related to complex numerical processing, complex scientific processing. Okay, but as the technology grew, we also started to store data inside the computer system, and we started to process that data and the information also. Okay, so here you might ask a question like, what is the difference between data and information, or what might be the similarity between data and information? Okay, so data and information does not have very large and different bases. In fact, data is nothing but a type of information that is in raw format. Okay, or you can also call an information as a data but as in processed format. Okay, so data and information is raw facts and figures, whereas information is the processed format of data. Okay, here we are having some points to be considered. Okay, and these points are, what is the smallest unit to measure data? Okay, what is the smallest unit to measure data? We call this thing as bit. So bit is the smallest unit to measure data. Okay, bit is also called as the binary digit in its full name. Bit could be also called as the binary digit as a full name. And whenever we talk about binary, we simply means we are going to talk about two set of numbers, and that is 0 and 1. Okay, either 0 or 1 at a time is called as a binary digit. Okay, and that is why we are having an entire chart of representation of the units. Okay, so if we are talking about 0 or 1 at a time, we simply call it as a bit. Okay, when we consider 4 bit at a time, we call this thing as nibble. And please mind, this nibble term is an important term. It has been asked a lot in our exams. Okay, so a 4-bit digit is considered as a nibble. Okay, however, it is very rare that we use it, but then 4-bit is considered as nibble. Okay, then the 8-bit number or the 8-bit is considered as the byte. All right, then 1024 byte is considered as kilobyte, or it can also be shortened as KB. The 1024 KB is considered as megabyte and shortened as MB. Okay, 1024 MB is considered as GB. Okay, 1024 GB considered as TB. 1024 TB is considered as PB or petabyte. Okay, 1024 petabyte or PB is considered as exabyte or EB. Okay, 1024 EB or exabyte is considered as zettabyte, and that is ZB. 1024 ZB, that is zettabyte, is also considered as yottabyte or YB. 1024 YB or yottabyte is considered as brontobyte, and that is called as BB. And 1024 brontobyte or BB is called as geobyte. Okay, and we can shorten it as GB. Okay, so do not get confused between this GB of gigabyte and GB of geobyte, because whenever we talk about the geobyte, we do not call it shortened names as GB, we simply call it as geobyte. Okay, and also to consider, the geobyte is the highest unit to measure data. Okay, and this again could be a question in your exam. Okay, one another aspect of considering these numbers is the byte part. Like this 1024 could be written as 2 to the power 10. Okay, and when we are talking about 2 to the power 10 byte, we can simply call it as kilobyte. Again, we are having 2 to the power 10 as 1024 here, and we also have this k that has been represented into 2 to the power 10. So this entire thing could be represented as 2 to the power 20, and this 2 to the power 20 could be considered as megabyte. So we had these question in previous year's exam where we have been asked, like, what is 2 to the power 30 byte equals to? What is 2 to the power 30 byte equals to? Okay, so you can get these answers from here only. 2 to the power 30 will go somewhere around here, 2 to the power 30. And what it represents, 2 to the power 30 actually represents giga. Okay, now one another thing is to consider here is, apart from this 2 to the power 30 or 2 to the power 20 or 2 to the power 10, what unit it is asking. It might ask what is 2 to the power 10 bit, and when it is asking about 2 to the power 10 bit, our answer must be the kilobit. Okay, since the question is asking in the unit of bytes, then only the answer will be in the unit of bytes. So if we are having a question like what is 2 to the power 30 bytes, the answer will be gigabyte. Okay, and if the question were 2 to the power 30 bit, what is 2 to the power 30 bit equals to? So the answer would be gigabit. All right, I hope you are clear with this point. Okay, so let us now write the entire chart here. 2 to the power 30 actually stands for gigabyte, and 2 to the power 40 is for tera, 2 to the power 50 is for peta, 2 to the power 60 is for exa, 70 is for zetta, 2 to the power 80 is for yotta, 2 to the power 90 is for bronto, and finally 2 to the power 100 is for the geobyte thing. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you and you are able to tackle the questions and its answers from this particular portion. Okay, let us move forward and let us talk about the IPOS thing that we are having here. Okay, what is IPOS actually stands for? IPOS is input, process, output and storage chart. Okay, in the input, process, output and storage chart, we are having different devices or different components, you can say. Okay, the input devices we are having here is the keyboard, mouse, scanner, light pen, trackball, stylus, webcam, joystick, biometrics, OCR, OMR, MICR and QR. These are some of the input devices that we generally use in our day-to-day life. Okay, there are various questions that also get formed from here. Okay, and we'll also be talking about those questions. So let us see what we have here. The important point from where the question get asked is, what is the full form of OCR? Okay, you might have heard about the full form of OCR. So the full form of OCR is optical character recognition. Okay, full form of OCR is optical character recognition. Please mind this last word, recognition. We do not call it as optical character reader. The right answer is optical character recognition. You can call it any names, optical character reader or recognition, but whenever it is coming as a question in your exam, you'll always go for the optical character recognition option. Okay, the next thing is OMR. What is the full form of OMR? It is optical mark reader. Okay. For the OMR, it is reader. It is not recognition. Okay. Next point is MICR. MICR stands for magnetic ink character recognition. Okay. Magnetic ink character recognition. All right. And finally, we have QR. QR actually stands for quick response code. Okay. Quick response code. So I hope you are clear with these full forms. Optical character recognition is for OCR. Optical mark reader is for OMR. MICR is magnetic ink character recognition, and QR is quick response code. Okay. Some other points related to MICR is there was a question in one of our exams, like what sort of ink is being used in MICR. Okay. This is again an important question. What type of ink or what sort of ink is used for the MICR, since it is magnetic ink character recognition, right? So the ink that we used in MICR is very much of importance. And what that ink is made up of, so that ink is made up of iron oxide. Okay, the ink in MICR is made up of iron oxide. Clear? Okay, let's move to the process part. And in the process part, we are having multiple different types of processors. Okay, there are various types of processors. Some processors are for the general computation purpose. Some processors are for the specific graphics processing. And then we also have some sort of processor that extensively work on the sound processing. Okay, so we are having various different types of processors, and these all processors have been classified into the process chart. Okay, moving towards the output part, we are having different types of output devices here. Monitor, printer, plotter, and speakers are some of them. In terms of monitor, there are various types of questions that get asked into our exams, like what is the full form of VGA? Do you know what is VGA? VGA is a type of monitor, or it is a type of a display. Okay, monitor or display could be understood as the same. What is the full form of VGA? VGA stands for Visual Graphics Adapter. Few other abbreviations related to monitors are, we have LCD, we have LED, we have OLED, and then we have AMOLED, AMOLED. Okay, so these are few other terms that generally gets into our exam. So what is the full form of LCD? LCD actually stands for liquid crystal display. Okay, liquid crystal display. All right. The LED stands for light emitting diode. Okay, light emitting diode. Okay, OLED is nothing but organic light emitting diode. So O actually stands for organic. Okay, organic here. And AMOLED or AMOLED, it actually stands for active matrix organic. So let me write it here. Active matrix organic light emitting diode, AMOLED. Okay, so these are some important abbreviations that are into our exams, and these are related to monitors. Okay, then we are having different types of printers also. There are basically two different types of printers, that is impact printers and non-impact printers, but then we'll be talking a lot about them into our input and output devices chapter. Okay, next point is plotter. Next output device is plotter. What is a plotter? Plotter is a type of printer that is used in heavy printing. Okay, and next output device is called speaker. Okay, so this was the output section, and now let's move forward to the storage section. So in the storage devices, we are having various different types of storage devices. There are storage devices that are sort of magnetic storage devices. There are storage devices that are sort of optical storage devices, and then we also have some electrical circuitry storage also. Okay, so few of them are written here, listed here. They are CDs, DVDs, hard disks, pen drive, and magnetic tape. They are some few of them. Basic full form of CD is compact disc. The full form of DVD is digital versatile disc, and hard disks could be shortened as the HDD, and finally pen drive and magnetic tape. Okay, so these are some storage devices. Okay, so let's move forward and let's see what next we are having here. So we are having some important questions from keyboard also, because keyboard is having multiple different types of keys, and there are question in our exams which actually talks about the types of keys in our keyboard. Okay, so let us discuss that also. So there are various different types of keys into the keyboard, and they are basically function keys, toggle keys, modifiers, alphanumeric keys, special purpose keys, and navigation keys. Okay, what are function keys? All the keys that are starting from F1 to F12 are called as function keys. Okay, what are toggle keys? Toggle keys are scroll lock, caps lock, num lock, and etc. These type of keys are called as toggle keys. Okay, next type of keys are modifiers, and modifiers are shift, alt, function, and control. These sort of keys are called as modifier because with the help of these keys we actually modify the specific behavior of any other key. Okay, next type of keys that we are having here is alphanumeric keys, and that is from 0 to 9 or A to Z. Okay, these sort of keys are called as alphanumeric keys. Next keys are special purpose keys, and they are print screen, pause break, insert, etc. Other set of keys are navigation keys, and navigation keys contains arrow keys, page up, page down, and home buttons, etc. Okay, so these were the different types of keyboard. Okay, next important point to discuss here is the motherboard part. Okay, so this motherboard is the central circuit of the entire computer system. Okay, and everything that we use in our computer system is somehow connected to this motherboard only. Okay, so motherboard is the major part of our computer system, and it also consists of a lot of components. Okay, and what these components are: the motherboard has the processing port, it has memory sockets, buses, extension slots, ports and connectors, ROM chip, and CMOS cell. So these are the important part that our motherboard consists of. Okay, what is processing port? Processing port is the area in motherboard where we put our microprocessor. Okay, you can see this particular area in image. This particular area is for implementing the microprocessor or putting the microprocessor here. Okay, the next part is memory socket. Okay, memory socket is a place where we put on our RAM. Okay, the main memory of computer system, that is RAM. We put our RAM into the memory socket, and you can see in the image this particular place, this is called as the memory sockets. Okay, it also depends on type of motherboard that how many different memory sockets will be there. Okay, the next term is called buses. Buses are nothing but the electrical pathways through which our data travel from one component to another, like from memory to processor or from processor to some other device. Okay, so these are buses which are actually electrical pathways through which our data travel. Then we are having extension slots, and extension slots are type of extra expansion ports that is basically used to enhance the functionality of computer. Okay, if we need to put some graphics card or say sound card, we need to put the graphics card or the sound card into the extension slots only. Okay, now next thing we are having here is called ports and connectors. So this back portion here, this is all ports and connectors area where we put our input and output devices. Okay, we connect all our input and output devices to this particular area. You can see this particular port here is used for connecting the display or the monitor. Okay, then we are having this particular port. Okay, this is connecting the sound system. Okay, so there are various types of ports and connectors. We'll be talking about them later in some other video, but this is the part of motherboard that is again an important thing. Next we are having here is the ROM chip. Now what is the full form of ROM? First of all, ROM actually stands for read-only memory, and it is a type of memory that contains the BIOS information of the entire system. And what is BIOS? BIOS is basic input-output system. This particular BIOS is actually responsible for booting up our system. Okay, whenever we turn on our system, this BIOS instruction gets executed, and this is responsible for booting our computer system. Okay, we'll talk about them also in our later videos. Next thing we are having here is called as CMOS cell, and a CMOS cell is also called as the system cell. Okay, now important point is what is the full form of CMOS? CMOS actually stands for complementary, let me write it here, complementary metal oxide semiconductor. Okay, complementary metal oxide semiconductor. This is the full form of CMOS, right? Okay. We also have other types of MOS cells, basically called as HMOS or hybrid MOS. These hybrid MOS are, say, more efficient than CMOS. Okay. So these are some important part on the motherboard. We also get some other questions related to these points that we discussed here, like the processing port. Okay. When we are talking about the processing port, we also should talk about the different architectures of processors that we put here. Okay, there are basically two different types of processor as per the architecture, and these two different types are RISC processor and CISC processor. Okay, you might get a question in your exam like, what is RISC? Okay, and you have options there like RISC is a type of memory, or it is type of a processor, or it is type of a storage, or it is type of an input device. So how would you know what is a RISC? Okay, so RISC is a type of processor based on the architecture of a processor. What is the full form of RISC? RISC actually stands for Reduced Instruction Set Computer. Let me write it here. It is Reduced Instruction Set Computer. Okay, Reduced Instruction Set Computer. And what is CISC? Again, it is the another type of processor. Full form is Complex Instruction Set Computer. Okay, so it is Complex Instruction Set Computer. Okay, then talking about the memory socket, we are having different type of memory sockets. Namely, two important memory sockets that we are having here is called SIMM type of memory or DIMM type of memory. Again, you could get a question like, what is SIMM or what is DIMM and what is the full form of SIMM? So SIMM is nothing but a type of memory. Okay, and what is the full form of SIMM here? SIMM actually stands for Single Inline Memory Module. Single Inline Memory Module. Alright, Single Inline Memory Module. And what is DIMM? DIMM stands for Dual or Double. Okay, Double or Dual Inline Memory Module. Okay, so these are two important terms that I wanted you to know, and these are very important terms, and these could be there in the exam. Okay, so as we have discussed this, let us move next and also talk about some other terms also. So the next thing we are having here is some MCQs question. But before proceeding to the MCQ, I want you to know some other important things also. Like whenever we talk about the processor, there's a lot of question like which particular processor was the very first microprocessor that was ever developed. Okay, so let me write it down as a pointer. First microprocessor chip that was ever developed. First microprocessor. Which microprocessor is considered as the first microprocessor? So first microprocessor was actually invented by a company called as Intel. Yes, the same Intel that we heard a lot today. Intel Corporation actually invented the first microprocessor, and the very first microprocessor was actually called as Intel 4004. Okay, this was the name, Intel 4004. This is the first microprocessor ever invented. Okay, what was the capacity of this microprocessor? So this was actually a 4-bit architectured microprocessor. It was capable of processing 4-bit of data. Okay, or you can also say the bus width of this particular microprocessor was 4-bit. Okay, this was the important term here. Now let us proceed to the MCQ part and let's see what we have as an MCQ. So based on our understanding and the lesson that we learned today, we are having some MCQs and let us solve that. The first question in our MCQ is, which is not a storage device? Which of the following options is not a storage device? Okay, the options we are having is printer, CD, hard disk, floppy disk, and DVD. So which of the following is not an storage device? The simple answer is printer. Okay, printer is a type of output device. This is not a storage device. Okay, all right. Next question we are having here is transformation of input into output is performed by? What particular thing is responsible for transforming the input into output? The options are peripherals, memory, storage, ALU, or CPU. Okay, so the right answer for this question is CPU is responsible for transforming input into output. Okay, all right, let's move forward. Next question we are having here is, what is the technology used to read pencil or pen marks on multiple choice answer sheet is called? Okay, what technology that we use to read pencil or pen marks on multiple choice answer sheet is called? Okay, the options we are having is OMR, MICR, OCR, CPU, or FTP. Very simple question. The right answer here is yes, exactly, OMR. And what is the full form of OMR? Did you say optical mark reader or you said optical mark recognition? Which is right, optical mark reader or recognition? Okay, so for the OMR, the right answer is optical mark reader. Okay, and for other things, for all the other things like MICR or OCR, it actually stands for recognition. The R term stands for recognition. Okay, but for the OMR, we call it as reader. As simple as that. Okay, let's move to the next question. The next question is, a special high-speed storage area within the CPU in which all data must be represented before it can be processed is called. Okay, so this question is asking that within the CPU section, what that small storage area is called that holds the data while the data is into the processing. Okay, so the options we are having here is BIOS, cache, RAM, register, or none of these. Okay, so the right answer for this question is register are that important thing. Okay, register is that special high speed storage area that consists all the data that are into the processing. Okay, or you can also say that register stores the data while in processing. Okay, so next question is, a special high speed storage area within the CPU in which all data must be represented before it can be processed is called. Okay, so as an option we are having BIOS, cache, RAM, register, and none of these. Okay, so what that particular high speed storage area that is inside the CPU? So right answer for this question is registers. Okay, so registers are the high speed storage area, special storage area that actually holds all the data while into the processing. Okay, when the data is getting processed, it is stored inside the registers. Okay, and please note that registers are the highest speed memory units. Okay, this is the highest speed memory units. Okay, so let's move to the next question, and it is, the first microprocessor chip was made by. It is asking for the company. Which company actually invented the first microprocessor? And we have just discussed that. Okay, the right answer for this question is Intel Corporation. Intel Corporation developed the first microprocessor chip. And what was that microprocessor chip? The chip was Intel 4004. Okay, let's move to the next question. Next question says, what is the full form of CMOS, or CMOS stands for? We are having different options here. First option is complementary metal oxide semiconductor. Then we have cache memory of storage. Option number C says complementary metal oxide storage, or compound metal of semiconductor, or none of these. We are having these 5 options, and the right answer for this question is complementary metal oxide semiconductor. Okay, let's move to the next question. Next question says, what does USB stands for? So USB actually stands for Universal Serial Bus. Right answer for this question is option number C, Universal Serial Bus. Okay, next type of question is, next question we are having here is, caps lock is, what type of key is caps lock? Is it a toggle key, or it is a modifier, or special purpose keys, or navigation keys, or none of these? Okay, so caps lock is a toggle key, a type of toggle key. Okay, next question is, what is SIMM? SIMM is a type of, exactly, that is the type of question that I was discussing while explaining the SIMM, or type of port of RAM. Okay, so this was the question that was asked previously. Okay, SIMM is a type of, options are processor, cache, RAM, register, or none of these. Right answer is SIMM is a type of RAM port. Okay, or random access memory port. If there were no options like RAM port, and the other options includes memory, then you'd go for the memory. Okay. Moving to the next question. The next question says the processing capability is measured in. Okay. The processing capability is measured in. Processing capability of what? Okay. There's a mistake in this question. The question must be like the processing capability of a microprocessor. Okay. A processing capability of a microprocessor is measured in. Okay. So we are having our options as GB, pixels, hertz, ppm, or none of these. Okay. So the processing capability of microprocessor is actually measured in hertz. Okay. So the right answer for this question is hertz. And why do we measure the processing capability into hertz? Because hertz is the unit of frequency, and in order to process our data, microprocessor actually performs few tasks. Okay. The frequency could be considered as the number of that tasks performed in a unit of time. Okay. The number of tasks performed in a unit of time will always be measured in hertz, and that is why we measure the processing capability of a microprocessor in hertz also. Okay. The larger units are there like gigahertz or megahertz. Okay. But the basic unit is hertz. All right. So this was the first video that we discussed, and these were some MCQs that we discussed. Okay. Thank you so much for joining in, and we'll move to the next video. So that's all for this video now. We'll talk little